Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
The back of that, the NDC. You don't want me to say the NDC, but the NDC is, fighting that allegation of a third term, attempt on the presidency. So let's see how we box all this together.
Well, good morning to all viewers across the world, since you are on the internet as well. I think it's a foregone conclusion that if President John Dramani Mahama was to stand for elections today, per the polls that were conducted by Musa Dankwa, he would win overwhelmingly today. And a third term for John Dramani Mahama would have been overwhelming, perhaps even more overwhelming than the 2024 elections. However, President John Dramani Mahama has indeed spoken and indicates that his attention is not on a third term and that kind of stuff. In fact, those who are pushing this, actually those from the NPP, who think that by making this a subject matter, will be stampeding him into not contesting or getting Ghanaians to be, wary of a possibility, are rather setting the stage for that to happen, because ultimately the issue would end up in the court. Somebody will test the law, and the Supreme Court will have to give a ruling as whether a third term means third consecutive term, or this would be his second consecutive term, since there have been 2 terms prior preceding his second coming, which would have been his first of the 2 consecutive. I don't think that is the issue for debate today. What should be in the debate should be his agenda to reset Ghana and leave a legacy. Let's leave it at that. If you you go and poke the bear, they should be very careful what they wish for, because there's no way. We know in January they'll be going for their primaries or their flag bearership election, and we know that John.
Who are you referencing?
We know that John Baumia. Or is it Timothy? Timothy Baumia will win. Now, if Timothy Baumia wins, like it's expected, and we hope that he wins overwhelmingly, because it would be a very bad scar if he does not win by 95 to 99%. Already the electoral college is skewed for his benefit, and we know that the people, in fact, instead of having the bottom up, they are going top bottom to ensure that those people, particularly those who have criminal cases hanging on their necks, are made to hold office, so that together they can have that solidarity. And Baumia, when he wins, to pretend that they are being persecuted when indeed the prosecution starts. Very soon, as we are all aware, the tribunals bill having been laid will be passed, and the tribunals will start working. Prosecutions will happen. The special courts will also be established by the new Chief Justice. And Ghanaians want Operation Recover All the Loot to be effective. So oral would be in full force from January. And they will be screaming from the high heavens, persecution, Nana B. Sammy Awuku. You on the list? Full list. Everybody would have to, see their day in court and hopefully be exonerated or incarcerated. But most importantly, Ghanaians want their loot recovered. So we are not perturbed. Whether John Mahama comes a third term or he finishes his legacy term, the most important thing has been said by the AU chair, and I'll quote him. The authority has also decided to support Ghana's candidature for the chairmanship of the African Union for the year 2027. And this was said in Abuja. By the ECOWAS, team led by the ECOWAS Commissioner Omar Eliu Torre. He expressed full confidence in the ability of Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama to lead the AU. And you see, there's some statement that the NPP used to make in trying to tag President Mahama, that it was what Bamia always and his wife Samira, they went around the country claiming he was incompetent. He added, President John Dramani Mahama deserves this community support We all know the competence of President Mahama, and the leaders have full confidence in him to represent West Africa in that role. You see, the competence of John Dramani Mahama is known to everybody, except those who want to pretend to be either asleep or dead. We pray that after 31st January, when Bawumia is elected to lead that incompetent bunch, that those who are not happy will find solace in my good friend's party, Solomon Owusu's party, that's the United Party. They should go back to their roots and join the UP to rejuvenate the party. Because Bawumia, against anybody, whether it's John Mahama, Asedin Ketia, Julius Debra, Ato Forsen, name them. And
Are you mentioning Mahama?
But they are talking about third term. So assuming that they go and push the button at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can say yes or no. Yes, in that a third term is possible if it's the second consecutive. All right? Or a third term is not if all are put together, which would then make this his second term. But indeed, it's the first of a new space. Like I said earlier on, I'm not interested in that debate. We want to see food on our table. John Mahama is delivering. We want to see quota on our roads. Asphalt is happening. We want to see like the expressway. We want to see the waterways being used for transport as a water river. We want to see the big push. We want to see the Kukonketenkete. We want to see all the nice policies that John Mahama is bringing. The competence of his government is at play. We have not been witnessing scandals. I mean, in Akufo-Addo's government, from day one, there were scandals. I mean, all manner of scandals. And so now, the courts are going to be choked with, prosecutions. In fact, I was speaking with Sammy. They are not interested in Solomon Owusu's case. The corruption against the EC chair, who declared about 5 to 6 times the Akufo-Addo as president. 5 to 6 times, different results, same election, after her husband had been given the cantonment's land. You know why? Even though it's marks of corruption, they are not interested. They said they are overwhelmed by cases that they have to deal with. Cases that have Sammy Awuku's name on it, everybody's name on it, like the entire NPP stretch. You understand? And so if we are going to be, worrying about this bunch of people, then we'll not get anywhere. You understand? I want to pray that the media will highlight the most important things that Ghanaians want. And I am happy with the style of governance of John Mahama, where he leads by carrying the people along, where his ministers do same by articulating what they are intending to do, especially the Attorney General and so on. That he should tell us things ahead of time. The move by Felix Fusukwachi, where they have the regular session with the various ministers, has to be broadened. In fact, I want to use this platform to announce that Arise Ghana will be starting our own, assessment on the 7th of January. We have been very quiet for a very long time. 7th of January would mark exactly 1 year of the tenure of John Mahama. We have waited quietly. I mean, John Mahama's tenure has not been like flawless. And I want to make it clear, it's a human institution. It's not flawless. We also want more. We are seeing the good things, but we want more. And so we would, on the 7th of January, have a major press, conference at the International Press Center to assess the John Mahama presidency. And then thereafter, quarterly, we'll be assessing sector by sector. We'll be having workshops. We'll be going to the people. We're not. Arise Ghana was not set up for demonstrations.
You are deviating from.
No. I know.
I want to give you a bill for all this advert.
No, that is to ensure that indeed, if even a third term will be on the records, that Ghanaians should be able to make it based on practical things, not on just the say-so of some political persons or some media people hiding a crack.
I need to go and take this quick break. When I come back, I'll give you the opportunity to wrap up for me. Let's take this short break. short break there. Let me remind you to join the conversation, join the discussion. Let's know your views and opinions on the issues that we're discussing. Get onto our WhatsApp platform and share your comments with us. Also on Facebook, and I'll make some time to read them at the tail end of the program. Still in studio with Prince Derek J, Dr. Aminu Shitu, and Professor Robert Kuganeb Lem having a discussion on the issues that we've brought up this morning. And Prince, you were on the discussions around ECOWAS unanimously endorsing President Mahama for the AU chairmanship. This comes at a point where you find insecurity on the continent. You also find the calls for reforms within, the leadership of AU and ECOWAS itself. Is this call as a result of the performance of Mahama in relation to what is happening in Ghana?
Yeah, I mean, everybody would attest to the fact that the reset agenda is on course, and hopefully Mahama would deliver, if not 99%, with our help, possibly 100%. If we checkmate him on everything to ensure he delivers his maximum. Now, if he's successful in resetting Ghana, as he has already started, and people look forward to resetting West Africa, that's ECOWAS, and he's already started with the Sahel. Colonel Bablolati's group are doing very well. People are looking forward to him also helping to reset Africa economically with the AFTA secretariat in Ghana and the kind of objectives that he has, particularly his agribusiness, angle, and also his fight against insurgency, against all sorts of internal stuff. His policies in Ghana, a lot of African countries wish to replicate, and I think that as AU chair, he would have that onerous duty to deliver. That. But beyond Africa, I think that for me, I see President Mahama playing a pivotal role in ensuring that Africa gets its, role practically, edged very well. If you listen to his speech at the United Nations General Assembly, he made it very clear, very categorical, and people thought this was Kwame Nkrumah reborn or resetting, the UN. We need to have our permanent place. He's made a pitch for that. Yeah. We need to have the, and I want to refer to Ankwesi's book. You still have it?
Yeah.
What's the title?
Resilience.
No.
Which one?
Yes.
Reparations.
Yes. Yeah. He asked for reparations. He's been made the champion for reparations. That's President Mahama. Okay? And I think that it gives him that opportunity to now leverage on that position that he's been given officially to make sure that happens. I think that for me, our place not only on the Security Council as in Africa, but to be a global player. If you look at the unipolar world that we are kind of moving into with the end of the EU as we knew it, the USA falling from grace, and the BRICS that is coming. I think that it is important that we have a stronger Africa, an Africa that is not only united, but the one that will have its, military force, just like the West Africa standby, forces being put together. The famous or the forefathers of the AU had in mind an African, army, and an Africa, that was like a country, just one unit. And I think that President Mahama has in him that vision, and he's articulated it succinctly in a practical way. You can see someone who has clarity of the vision that Nkrumah and the others had. So for him to be at this point the head, he can practicalize it. But Ghana is the most stable in this part of the world, and hopefully the lessons learned, or at least we can draw on that to ensure that we have that kind of sanity. I think that he will also be able to lead as matching countries like the US, boot for boot, Russia same. And why do I say that? If you remember, not too long ago, and I want to give some credit to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa also as foreign minister. He's done a sterling job in the short time that he's been foreign minister. If you look at what the senator tried to do, the American senator tried to do, if you look at even Trump the boisterous nature that he tried to use to muscle, Ghana. He's had to make U-turns. Some compromises have also been made. It's not everyone that I agree with. The extraditions, for example, I think that having extradited about 9 Ghanaians, the very least they can do is to give us back our Ken. And it should not be on monetary terms. In any case, those Sakawa boys and so on, the kinds of money that they spirited out of America thanks to the romance fraud and the vehicle, laundry. Gabi has that vehicle thing hanging. I don't know whether he's one of the people.
Which
those stolen vehicles thing. Canada, US. Anyway, I'm sure we'll Google that after, and I'll bring that to clarity. But, you see, he stood up to Israel most recently. And I think that, the relations between Ghana and Israel, vis-a-vis the Palestinian issue, okay, for me, scores some very high marks. I think that we can have allies, but we should stand for the things we believe in. The two-state solution, if we do believe in that, should not push us to the point where we are aligning so much with Israel when we can see clearly what they are doing in Gaza, what they are doing to the Palestinians and so on, the human rights violations, the genocide. I mean, we must call a spade a spade. And I think that Mahama and Okudzeto on this one have scored very high marks. And I want to see President Mahama at the head of Africa pushing the continent with all the support, the unanimity that he's getting from ECOWAS. If we can get that unanimity in Africa, and we move with a singular thought, with one vision, my goodness, Africa will be it. We have all the resources, we have the human resource, and with AFTA and others in place, God, Ghana will also be a happy place because we will be at the center of it all. That is Nkrumah's dream, to have Ghana as a gateway with the Black Star experience and all these other things going on. We would benefit immensely. So those who think that our president is being taken away from us or his focus is going to shift, like some people felt when Nkrumah was doing, and that led to the 66 coup and all that. This time round, the foundation is set and eagle eyes are watching. No one will derail the process and will be the good for it, the better for it.
So you realize that Mahama has really stood up, when it comes to taking bold decisions, as enumerated by Prince here. He's taking a lot of, tough decisions. You look at the speech he delivered at the General Assembly, at the United Nations General Assembly, where he stood up, spoke as a true African, in fact, like a second Nkrumah. It brings you to mind about certain calls that have gone on, looking at the rise of insurgency on the continent, talking about the insecurity that is now, sweeping across every part of Africa, the coups and everything. If you look at his responses, his demeanor, his, composure towards these issues, are we in the right place? These two consecutive terms issue. Would you be surprised if, let's say, somebody goes to court?
I like your last submission. That's someone, not me. Like Doctor and many other well-meaning Ghanaians, I think our focus should be on not just the bread and butter, but the legacy that John Dramani Mahama, as President of Ghana, will leave. And also help him to do his West Africa and African objectives for the greater good of all of the continent. That for me is the most important thing. I mean, I've heard many people say that, and everything that you try, they come up with an excuse. So, for example, you tell the Chief Justice, say, they want to have a constitutional, review, interpretation of the Supreme Court. They want to pack the Supreme Court with their people so that the Supreme Court would have someone go before it to ask the question that you just posed. And then they will say, yes, it is not 3 consecutive, but 2 consecutive can be allowed. And therefore, since there's been a break between the first term and his second term, it can be considered as a new first term, and therefore he can go first. That is not the objective. People petitioned, and we all know the president's supposed to be a conveyor belt. And you need just one of the petitions to succeed. A petition succeeded, and the woman is out. We currently have a new Chief Justice. We are moving on. So that is that one. Number 2, I mean, even on the constitutional review process that has all but ended with H. Kwesi Prempeh, Prof. and his team presenting shortly to the president a document. It would have to undergo some processes, some further processes. It's not a final, situation that a committee is put together and then what they put together becomes a fiat or a new constitution for Ghana. No, it has to go through a referendum. So assuming, without admitting that even there's a constitutional change to allow for a third term or multiple terms, and I won't even end it at first, second, or third term. There's also the option of multiple terms. I mean, for life. I mean, these are considerations that people have, kind of.
And there's also the talk about extending the time from 4 to 5
years or even a single term of 8 years and so on. I mean, all sorts of ideas have come. These will have to be tested. It's the sovereign will of the Ghanaian people that matters. It's not the will of a few Ghanaians who have been constituted into a team or parliament, for that matter, even though they're supposed to represent us. We all know they don't. In the main, I mean, most MPs don't represent their people. Truth. Yeah. So they cannot, even with a super majority, go and make such fundamental decisions, even if it's a popular decision. Some of us will kick against it, assuming that the Parliament of Ghana is constituted into a situation where such fundamental things, which the president himself has said he's not interested in, is being foisted on him and foisted on Ghanaians. I mean, we should not allow that to happen. And so I don't see the future of this thing. Because if there's going to be a referendum, it's going to be tied to the 2028 election. And by which time, it's too late for anyone to become a candidate. Because if the NPP has their candidate in January of 2026, I don't think the NDC is going to have its candidate in 2028 or 2029 after a referendum. And I don't see a referendum happening before 2028 because of the cost implications, the logistics, and so on and so forth. I mean, you have been at the EC, maybe you can advise better, but I don't see the practical, situation arising.
We've lived in a country where Supreme Court rulings had happened in a single day.
No, I agree with you. I'm saying that I disagree with
looking for money to run a referendum.
That was a bad problem. Yeah, I'm saying that, you see, there are two, as I see it, two practical ways of having this happen. One would be the normal route of having the Constitutional Review Committee present its report, and then there are aspects that, reforms can, address. And then there are some too that are, quote unquote, technically entrenched, clauses that need for a referendum to happen. And there are some that are not entrenched but may be posed as questions within the context of a referendum, like this two-term thing, which 3-term or 2-term thing, or even the time frame within which a president may serve, and so on. And these are things that possibly could go to a referendum, and a referendum I cannot see happening before that. The second would be using the Supreme Court route of having a simple interpretation, because it's a clause within the Constitution, and as to whether indeed it is consecutive or not, the interpretation is left to the law lords, that's the Supreme Court. And if they do make a pronouncement, it becomes law, and therefore it can immediately become operational. I don't see that also happening. I mean, we've seen a situation where even people have said that, we want a one-party state, and that's why we want to, pack the parliament. Yeah. No, there are MPs who have done galamsey, so they should stay. Removing them will consider a one-party state, so be it. They are corrupt MPs, so they should stay. No, they should go. Look, any man, in fact, the unruly behavior of MPs in Parliament calls for the removal of some of them. No, you see, you cannot have MPs misbehave in Parliament and expect Okada riders to behave. You pass Okada law, and then you are misbehaving in Parliament. When the Okada guys misbehaving on the streets, parking at almost every intersection, you see plenty bikes parked. You see them dirty. You see them with funny hairstyles and so on. I mean, what moral justification do you have to call them to order? I mean, you have a situation where the OSP, by his own conduct, Ghanaians are saying, even if the office is not scrapped, that the man and Sammy Awuku should go. That's unanimous. Does that mean that the government intends to be corrupt? I mean, the NPP, look, if you are wearing your suit right now, they'll say, why haven't you worn it backwards? Just because you're wearing it forwards. They will find, look, the devil is finding work for idle mouths. in Parliament. And I think that Ghanaians should be, conscious of one thing, that 2028 is perhaps the only practical time for a referendum. Anything short of that we should not accept. That we want some reviews, and I agree with him. For some of us, and most Ghanaians for that matter, oral is primary. Oral, recovering all the loot. Look, our economic situation can be changed overnight if we can get all these monies from all the looters. If we can get a situation where the NDC currently, even though they are not, we don't have any scandals, will be afraid to have a scandal, because if they see what is done to the NPP people, it will serve as a deterrent. And the president has said the first person to bring a scandal to his government, he will use him as an example. These are the things that we should listen. For me, my land, oral, I want to see it work. I want to get my lands back. The cantonments, the airport, those are for me the things that Ghanaians really want. And it's not about having a debate about 3 terms. Really, the president is, come on. He can decide not to be president. His aura alone can win NDC the election. So why should he be on the ballot? Look, anybody in the NDC, I'm telling you, anybody in the NDC, from a foot soldier to anything, can be on the ballot tomorrow against Bawumia. Bawumia cannot win. So it's not an issue of even winning an election. Bawumia, look, I listened to Japan's people, even Abapapo. He's done irreparable damage to Bawumia using only his own words. The last election, much of the campaign was using Bawumia's own statements. Until Bawumia make sure that Palugu Dam comes on stream, for example. What is he going to say? What does Bawumia want to come back for? Really, ask yourself, is he coming to fix the economy? He had 8 years, he didn't do it. As head of economic management team, he couldn't do it. What is he going to do with the dollar? The dollar has been fixed already. And it's going to be fixed further when, the food situation even improves further with agri-business and agriculture, projects that the president has put in place. What's he going to do? He's going to bring Ken back for prosecution or to become finance minister. What is he going to do, really? What does Ken what are they coming to do? Ask yourself, to come and steal some more? Reset looting? Or reset what? I don't get. No, let's be frank. Let's look Ghanaians in the eye. Please look in the camera. What? No, I want the camera to be on you. And so you can, cameraman, focus on the host. What is Bawumia coming to do?
I call the shots, you don't call the shots.
Bawumia, no way. No way for Bawumia, no way for NPP. So it's not about 3rd term. It's not like NDC lacks even the human resource. We have the people, and sector by sector, if they focus on delivering, and therefore the legacy is done. It doesn't matter any of the ministers, whether it's the chief of staff, whether it's the party chairman, the general secretary, or the foot soldier. But me alone, I'm not going to even throw my hat in even the parliamentary, net, let alone presidential. But I believe that we should all help the NDC and Ghana to succeed. Ghana is the name. It is not necessarily NDC.
I'm having some quite interesting, comments here on Facebook. Somebody says, I support Mahama for 3rd term. Chairman is also interested in the race. Ask the chairman, has he contacted the base of the party branch or not? The special, what bill are they going? They're coming under the private members bill, in an attempt to repeal the act that set up the office of the special prosecutor. Prince, where do you stand on this? I know your stance on this. Has it changed, especially with the request from the president to look into their matter, asking them that they step down and rethink because the calls are premature?
Well, first, I think the topic that you are introducing confirms the erratic mindset of the minority. I don't know who specifically this is attributed to, but not too long ago, the minority were supporting the scrapping of the office of the special prosecutor. So why would you go after someone who is saying what you are saying? In fact, if they should go for anybody's head, I think they should go in for Right Honorable Professor Reverend Michael Kwei's head. He oversaw the introduction of...
You remember that when the issue came up for debate in Parliament, both sides actually supported, the need, to have a second look at the operations of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So it was coming from, both sides of the political divide. The worry that I see in this is that maybe perhaps they feel, left off in the race, that now they are hidden to the request. Others also think that's the request in the form, a demand in the form of a request, because definitely you cannot, step up against the president. They feel, betrayed, sort of.
President John Mahama is not just president of Ghana. He's the leader of the NDC. And the NDC and Parliament have a relationship with the party structure, at which apex we have the General Secretary as CEO, the Chairman, and the President, sitting President. So I can understand maybe the acquiescence of the the majority leader and the majority whip. I disagree. I hold a different view. Some may choose to describe me as a rebel. I don't just agree to things because they have been stated. I respect teamwork, but I also believe that we must be able to adduce reasons for whatever decisions that we make, however contrary to the grain, and perhaps convince others of the need to take a second look at some decisions that have been taken. And in retrospect, I believe that the president is a listening president, has actually even, allowed for broader consultations on a variety of things. I mean, even just last week there was one such one, and so on and so forth. But this president also is a very forward-thinking person, very sober and reflective person, and so you must grant him some of the things also that he says, based also on a variety of things, including the fact that he gets security briefings that we don't get. So when there's a benefit of the doubt, you want to defer to the president, and not just any president. I mean, Akufo-Addo I'd never defer to. Erratic mind, not constructive, Baumia same, but President Mahama is in a different league. So if you defer to President Mahama in a thing like this, I would pander a little to that. However, I do believe also in the separation of powers, and I believe that Parliament should be able to stand on its own. And even as we move towards a situation of removing the executive, shall I say, overreaching, presence in the, Parliament, where ministers at least 50% must come from Parliament. I believe the Constitutional Review is looking at, removing this. So again, I see a difficulty if we're thinking along those lines, that somehow or the other, if members of Parliament are taking a certain, they should be given a free hand to go. I think that they should have been given a free hand. What I wasn't sure was whether they had tabled or they were about to table before the intervention. Because if they tabled it already, then I have a problem with the withdrawal. I saw another a year ago at two events, the funeral of Babilati's wife. Unfortunately, that's not a place to have all that conversation. But I'd intended at the earliest to find out exactly what happened. Because from my own understanding of the issues, because I like to speak based on facts rather than conjecture. But as for dismissing the NPP, you can dismiss them on a variety of reasons. One, they are inconsistent. They are out to be just destructive. They just want to latch onto anything. And if they were very serious, they should have talked about their role in bringing into being this OSP law or bill or act, as it were. The reason why President Akufo-Addo, in fact, he didn't formulate this. This thing has been on the books for a long time. In fact, it predates even his tenure as Attorney General and Minister of Justice. The problem lies in that unification of Attorney General position and Minister of Justice in the Constitution of Ghana. And I'm sure the Constitutional Review will be looking at decoupling these two. Once these two are decoupled, the issue of the OSP becomes otus. It becomes moot. You understand? So I want to believe, for example, that if the Constitutional Review process goes the full length and we are able to decouple this, then the independence of the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice, whose role and function within the cabinet, and therefore being a minister of an executive president, and the fear that such persons who have been given the authority under the mandate of an Attorney General to lead all prosecution or prosecution will not be in a position to either prosecute his own colleagues in government, or even if he does, will find it difficult to coexist with them in that same cabinet, and therefore render that cabinet a little bit, you understand, the difficulty it introduces. I get it. I disagree also. I know the current Attorney General, for example, and it's not all Attorney Generals who will be like him, so I understand, because of course you can't compare Akufo-Addo as Attorney General with Dominic Ayine. Dominic Ayine is a steady mind. He's a very focused mind. He's a sharp mind. He's a good person. I mean, unlike his predecessor, we all saw him. One who was trying to imprison people, using the back door and all that. You don't need a hatchet man as an Attorney General. You need somebody like a Dominic Ayine. But we cannot guarantee that we'll always get a Dominic Ayine. And that's why the Constitution must be clear. We must decouple that. Now, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, who appoints the Special Prosecutor? Isn't the President? Right? Who funds the Special Prosecutor? The Executive. So the issues of the Attorney General are still there. You understand? Because we know why President Akufo-Addo set up that office. It was not for the purpose that all Ghanaians wanted. We wanted an independent prosecutor who would be able to prosecute people who are still in government, not people who are outside government. Note, the Attorney General's situation that was posing a difficulty was his ability to prosecute those who he was in cabinet with or in government with. So why was Martin Amidu being pushed by President Akufo-Addo by his own personal petition to prosecute a former president? Was the president in government? The chief was what underpinned the Mother Serpent's efforts at establishing that office. He wanted a man to prosecute Mahama, who was not in government, which prosecution, assuming was even legit, could have been done by the then Attorney General. So in no way was the OSP office used in prosecuting people in government. In any case, let's look at people who were in government at the time that it was set up, who were being prosecuted. For example, Ken Ofori-Atta, classic example. Ken Ofori-Atta was finance minister when the current OSP became, the OSP was formed. The first special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, attempted to deal with Ken Ofori-Atta. Remember, that is why he got out, because the president, Akufo-Addo, interfered with the investigations and possible prosecution of Ken Ofori-Atta. You understand? That was Martin Amidu's resignation. And you remember the transaction. Then Martin leaves claiming that the mother serpent of corruption, that's the epitome, the personalization, the personification of corruption in Ghana, was Akufo-Addo. So his successor, naturally, if he wants to deal with corruption and corruption-related offenses, should go to Akufo-Addo. That's the first address. The mother serpent should have been the first to be prosecuted because he was still in government, if the principle holds true. But what did, what's his name? The current guy, what's his name? I thought he was even gone, so I'm pushing him out of my mind. He didn't go after Akufo-Addo. Neither did he go after Ken Ofori-Atta. In fact, if he did in the latter stages, he looked for the man to work. And then came to tell us cock and bull stories about trying to get Gabi's national security advisor, NIB person, and also, which has turned out to be a lie. And then instead of focusing on catching Ken for us, he goes to catch Martin. I mean, please catch the real people, not the whistleblowers. So the man has turned his office into a useless entity, which is a gas guzzler. Look, the amount of money that has been spent on that office, and I'm not talking about the bulletproof gas and those things that the NPP people are arguing about, because there's a separate matter about those things, some potential issue. I don't think we want to go there. But the amount of money, taxpayers' money, that has been budgeted into the office, if given to either the director of public prosecutions, which indeed is another option. If the Attorney General is having difficulty because the cabinet minister, the director of public prosecutions is not. So why don't we spend that money on that until such time that the decoupling of the AG and Minister of Justice happens? Number two is that this year over $1 billion is being voted by President Mahama, And he's saying that let us give them a little bit more time. The office has just now had this full complement of 250 staff and so on and so forth. Time is running out, however. The patience of Ghanaians is running out, however. So he calls on the special prosecutor that, look, speed up. Because if he speeds up, Ghanaians are not stupid. What do Ghanaians want? Very little. Ghanaians want Ofriata brought to justice. Ghanaians want people prosecuted. Okay? You've touched a number of cases. Prosecute those. You have all the money. You have the resources. You have everything. You have police powers. And you've demonstrated they are able to arrest people. Even people who should not be arrested, you're arresting them. So arrest the right people. Look, billions, over 52 billion from the commercial bank was spirited out of the bank vault to an unknown destination. And the Auditor General has still not come up with something concrete on that, where the money went. What should a special prosecutor be waiting for? Does he need anyone to prod him? And frankly, the special prosecutor does not need petitions. He can, on his own, go and investigate things. And I gave you a typical example. On this own studio, Solomon Wusu was sitting here. He showed us documents. You read the documents. We know the evidence is out there. Where we have an EC chairperson in an election year. The husband is gifted land by the certain president, and then goes out there to give funny, verdicts on who won the election to that president who gave him her the land through the husband. Corruption we have seen does not have to be directly the person collecting it. We've seen Dubai, the wife and the girlfriends waits for the money. And almost everybody, it is either the spouse or some family, and that is why even Oral said that public officers, their spouses, family members, etc., should be banned from, being given lands and money. I mean, all sorts of things. We know. So if the EC chair is involved in something that smells of corruption, that is potentially corruption related, and that is the mandate of the OSP. And Sammy Daku says that they are not interested. Sammy Daku, you will be interested. Otherwise, leave. The special prosecutor should get interested or he should leave. Look, we are not playing games. So the 2020 elections, we need to know who really won. I don't think it's a Akufo-Addo. He procured that thing. If indeed the documents that Solomon Wusu, that is the United Party's spokesperson, showed us, and we saw Philip. Didn't you see it? You saw it. You read it. Boss, didn't you see it? You saw it. You read it. Sammy Daku is saying they are not interested. The special prosecutor is not. Look, you will be interested. We will bring it to you. You will be interested.
This school of thought that, look, President seems to be interfering in the affairs of Parliament. Was these two gentlemen, the sponsors of the bill, obviously will act on behalf of Parliament, whatever bill that they have sent there. And you are called to stand. And I believe that's where the argument of the minority comes in. That, look, you are overstretching from the executive and giving directives to, to the legislature. Would you support that argument? That maybe perhaps the president should have... I was even thinking that, look, you could have called these guys behind the scene, the president of the land, and asked them to step down quietly. Was that the appropriate chance?
I'm not PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.